Hi everybody. I wanted to do a quick review of my homeschool planner that I used for this year, and I thought I would do my review now in May, end of April, so that I could tell you some of the things that I liked and didn't like. So as you're planning for next year, you might be able to use this. So I printed all of my own pages, and then I took my planner to Staples and had them put the spiral binding on it. It was 315, something like that, and it includes this clear plastic cover, and then on the back side is just a black cardstock cover. So this is a really economical way to make your own planner. I've had them spiral bound several things and it's always turned out really well. So I just created a cover that I liked that would make me happy when I was working on my homeschool planning, and printed that on cardstock. Then when I open this up, I'll link to where I found these couple of pages online if you want to print them off. This just has a 5-year holiday list to help with planning for the future, if I'm ever looking out that far. But it is kind of nice to see when some of those major holidays are. Then this page over here has goals for the year, which obviously I didn't fill out. I kind of have them in my head, but we changed things a little bit this year. I have, my oldest is 6. He is a super old kindergartner. He missed the date in our state to start kindergarten last year, which was fine because I was still working full time. So he's kind of a kindergarten first grader. Then I have a 4-year-old who did a little bit of kind of preschool stuff this year. We'll definitely do more next year. And then we have our youngest is 19 months old. And we found out this year that she has some delays and some things we've been working through. So our goals have kind of shifted a little bit. So that's just those couple pages. Then I have a page. I'm going to flip through these really quickly for every month. And you can see I kind of started writing some things down on them. I won't include these pages next year. They weren't really all that helpful. I keep a pretty detailed calendar just on my phone. So I felt like I was just kind of writing things down twice. So I won't include them. You can see starting in November, I didn't even write on them. So I won't put those in my calendar for next year. This page I definitely will. Hopefully you can see that good. This is what I used as my attendance calendar. We live in Iowa and I homeschool under the independent private instruction option, which means I don't report anything to anybody. My school district basically doesn't know that we exist. So I don't have to meet a set number of days or any sort of requirements, but for my own peace of mind, I do like to track what we do. So I try and shoot for about 150, 160 school days. So this is how I plan it. And then it's all blank like this one down here. And then as we go through at the end of the week, I just fill in with yellow highlighter the days that we were in school. Green are days that we do a field trip, and sometimes those coincide with a school day, so I don't mark them specifically. And then the gray is when we're on break. We follow kind of a year-round schedule where we do basically each row is a quarter. So we start in July and we do 9 to 10 weeks. Then we take 3 weeks off in September, which is perfect because I have 2 September birthdays, so it gives us a little bit of flexibility around birthday time. Then we do 9 weeks on with a week off at Thanksgiving and then 3 weeks off at Christmas. Another 9 weeks, and then we do our spring break in March for 3 weeks. One of these weeks usually coincides with our local school spring break, so that way if we want to do something with friends, we can, and then we can have 2 weeks off to ourselves. I also have, my middle daughter has a March birthday, so that's handy for that as well. Then we finish out in April and May and take the whole month of June. This has worked really well for us this year, and we're planning on keeping the same schedule for next year. It gives us a good chunk of school time and then a nice little break without getting overly long. We'll see if that continues to work for us, but it's worked really well now, and I might do a more in-depth video on kind of why we decided to do that later. But this is my attendance calendar, so that's super important. Then I have just kind of some random quote pages when I have a blank one. This is how I started doing, bumped my tripod here. This is how I started doing my lesson plans. You can see this one says science up at the top. Let's see, the next one is math. I was going to kind of lay out my whole year, but things change, curriculum change, that kind of thing. So I'm not sure how I'm going to handle this next year. What I did actually, I'm going to pull this in, that worked a little bit better is a page that looks like this. This is my year at a glance. And it's a couple of pages long. This is just the end because we're getting down. We just started or getting ready to start week 34 next week. And I have each subject. So my date, then this is what we're watching for Bible, handwriting, math, reading, science, virtues, phonics, on down the line. So this has actually been a better way to help me kind of line things up. So I have fluctuated a little bit. You can see if I pull out the last one, we got off on our numbering, so I kind of marked some things in. So I don't know if I'll put this in next year or not, but this is kind of how I did my year at a glance when I realized that this wasn't really probably exactly what I wanted. So I have several of these in here that I have used or haven't used. Then this is my preschooler's plan. I'm going to try and zoom in here so you could maybe actually read these. This is just a blank one so that you can kind of see what her week looks like. We only school 4 days a week, and I've been really intentional to not put day labels on things as much as possible because that gives us the flexibility that we need. She definitely does not do all of this. I'm really lax with her at 3 on what I want her to do or not do every week. She likes just hanging out and doing school, so I can usually get her to do a few things every day, but she definitely doesn't get all the way through this. But if I'm putting stuff in a box for her or setting out tubs, this is kind of my goal. She loves the Letter Factory DVD, so she probably watches that most days. And then I usually have different math and coloring and shape activities for her. She does some of these during school time and some of them during what we do as quiet time in the afternoon. So she gets learning activities then as well. So I usually fill out what I think she's going to do for the week. And then if she does it, great. If she doesn't, that's definitely not the end of the world either. So that's what her little preschool pages look like. So I'm going to skip here to... this is a filled in month, so this is October. This is for my kindergartner. So I have a column over here that I didn't really end up using because my virtues were on my other sheet that I showed you a second ago. And then books and materials, if I need anything from the library or specifically, I can put it over here. Then I just created this in an Excel document. I will probably change it next year because that's just the way I tend to be. I was a public school teacher for 9 years before I stayed home with my kids, and it took me a number of years to figure out what lesson plan template worked the best for me, and I'm assuming it will be the same with homeschool. There'll be a little bit of trial and error. So I did give myself days here. Next year, I'm just going to put in the 4 days. I'm going to zoom in so you can see what they actually say. Then I left a spot for each subject. And then at the beginning of the week, I write things in and then I highlight them as he finishes them. Sometimes I forget because I know we did that. And that way I can see really quickly at a glance what I want him to do. So this was super simple. I have one of these spreads for every month. And it worked okay. Next year, I'd like to combine both of my kids onto one sheet so I'm not always flipping back and forth. So that's kind of going to be one of my goals for next year. So you can see where they're filled in. We only had 3 weeks in November because we have our week off for Thanksgiving. Get down here to the end. And I just went ahead and started planning a little bit to finish out our year in May. I don't plan a super far time in advance. I have this, that's my lesson at a glance, but I don't usually write those things in until the month or even the week of. If things change, I want my schedule to be right, so I don't want to write it and set it in stone and have to go through and erase a million things. So this month I kind of went through and did a little bit more because we're finishing up and he's finishing some books, and so we don't have quite as much school to do. So that's what his months look like. It worked okay, but like I said, I'm probably going to change it a little bit next year. Reading log, this is just a blank page. We didn't do as many chapter books as I thought we were maybe going to, but we can write those in here. And then I just put a spot if I need to write notes, which I haven't really had to use too much. So between that and this are the majority of my plans. I do a daily checklist for my kindergartner. And I'll probably do a separate video that's specifically on that so that he knows what he's doing every day. We started that mid-year, and that's kind of helped with his motivation and willingness to start doing a little bit of independent work. So we'll talk about that in another video, but feel free to ask questions. Steal whatever you want to steal. I'll try and link from where I grabbed pages from other people, and hopefully that helps you. Enjoy.